What's going on, everyone? You're welcome once again to David Data channel. Alright, so on today's video we're going to be talking about slowly changing dimensions. This is a concept that's really important when designing your data warehouse, because you want to understand or you want to agree how you're going to maintain history. Typically your data would have history, but how do you want to maintain this history? We say our dimensional models are made up of facts and dimensions, but occasionally those dimensions value would change. How do you want to handle those changes? Do you want to keep those changes? Do you want to delete those changes entirely? How do you want to manage those changes? That's where the concept of slowly changing dimensions come in. I hope you're going to understand this clearly by the time we get to the end of this video. If this is your first time or returning viewer, thank you so much for stopping by. Please, I'd like you to hit the like button and the subscribe button, and also the notification bell so you can be notified once a new video drops in. And if you've missed our videos on data modeling and dimensional modeling, please check that in the link above and the link in the description below as well. Alright, so let's jump into my screen right now as we talk about slowly changing dimensions. As the name implies, slowly changing dimensions are dimensions that are slowly changing. The question is, how do you want to handle these changes? Do you want to keep the history? Do you want to delete the history entirely? We're going to see some types of slowly changing dimensions and how they are being handled. And you can choose one that really fits your use case and decide to handle your slowly changing dimensions in that manner. Okay, so we're going to start with the type 0. We have the type 0, type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, type 6 types of slowly changing dimension. Alright, so we're starting with type 0. For the type 0 slowly changing dimension, the dimension is never updated. So for example, we have a dimension table, let's say a customer dimension table that has a primary key, has a customer name David F. Young and customer address Lagos, Nigeria. If there is an update, it is never updated, like that dimension is never updated. Typically this is mostly used for reference data, right, where classifiers like currency, code usually do not change, right? Your lookup table sort of a thing. So we'll classify those as part of your type 0 slowly changing dimensions, because they are never really updated and changes rarely happen because they are sort of more or less like reference or lookup tables like currency, codes and stuff like that. Alright, so let's go into type 1 slowly changing dimensions. For the type 1 dimension, the dimension is overwritten. So let's say we have a customer table, we have this dimension table, right? Primary key, customer name David F. Young, address, and I change my location immediately. The aftermath what you're going to have in this table would be this: the location would have been entirely changed and replaced with my new location, which is London, UK. So for your type 1, it is totally changed. Like, so this is where you have to now start asking yourself, does the business have a use case for understanding where I was living before? Will the business have a need for such analysis in the future? So these are some of the things you want to consider before you make a decision on how you would want to model your data, either using a type 1 or a type 0 or a type 2 as the case may be. And then we have the type 2 slowly changing dimension, which is more frequently used. For the type 2 slowly changing dimension, you keep all the old records for the dimensions by versioning the row. In other words, you create a new record for that dimension. So let's say, for example, we have this record, David F. Young, location is Lagos, and I change my location to London, UK. What you then have is that you have a new record is created, but then this new record creates a duplicate key for me, for my primary key, creates a duplicate customer name, right, which now becomes sort of complicated if your dimensions if you have a lot of columns in your dimensions and you're just changing only one dimension, right? That's the big thing. And then so typically what happens is that you now eventually have something like this, a table that has a column that tells us the valid from and the valid to, and also like a surrogate key that has a unique key for these changes. So I now have a primary key which is same for each record, a customer name which is the same, and the address which is now different, Lagos, and at this point London, UK. Now you now have a valid from and a valid to. Valid from is saying that this record Lagos, when was it valid, and then to, when did it stop being valid, being valid. What is the surrogate key that I can use to find unique records in this particular primary key for this customer? You have that information. And then for the new row, I say address is London, UK, is valid from when this valid to ended, and then the valid to is blank until this guy this guy changes location again, and then it has a surrogate key. So DBT has a snapshot table, a snapshot model. I'll call that a snapshot feature that follows this type 2 slowly changing dimension formats. Yeah, so depending on your use case, you may want to consider this path as well. And we also have the type 3 slowly changing dimensions that keeps all old records but in the same row by adding a previous value column. So instead of versioning this guy, type 2 versions by adding a new column, rather by adding a new row. Type 3 versions by adding a new column. So this is what it was previously before the change, and after the change we now have a current address and we have a previous address. Okay, and we have the type 4 slowly changing dimension as well. For the type 4, it maintains current and old records in different tables, right? So this is our existing table. I change my location to the UK. I'm just going to have now 2 tables that would have these 2 changes. Table 1 would change to my new location, London, UK, David F. Young as the customer and the primary key, and table 2 would now have the old information as well, which is almost similar to the type 2, but at this point it doesn't include the valid to period. The table 2 just shows me all the addresses I've been in and valid from. So it doesn't show previous address and past address. It just has all the address in one column, but then it has a valid from for each of the address and a surrogate key for each of the address, right? So that's really your type 4 slowly changing dimension. It just puts everything in 2 columns. Unlike your type 2, it puts everything in 2 tables. Unlike your type 2 slowly changing dimension that puts everything in 1 table, your type 2 breaks it down into 2 different tables. And then we have the type C. Type C is a summation of type 1, type 2, and type 3. And you can also think of it like 1 plus 2 plus 3, which is equal to 6. So we're starting from this guy, primary key, customer name, location, and then I change my location to UK. What you eventually have is that you have a new record, and then in new record you have your primary key, your customer name, David F. Young, the same, and then you have the current address column for current address, you have the column for previous address, you have the valid from column, you have the valid to column, and you also have the surrogate key. So it speaks the valid from and valid to from the from the type 2. It totally changes and overrides the address from type 1, and then from type 3 it brings in the new additional record. Yeah, if you got a thing or two out of this video and you like it, please hit the like button and subscribe button. If you have thoughts or experiences on building slowly changing dimensions or working with slowly changing dimensions, you can share about it in the comment section below. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video. Bye for now.